Dzień dobry. I hope I pronounced it correctly. Thank you very much for inviting me here in your conference, make it clear, and I would like to congratulate you for the organization and for keeping, let's say, up to date a dear and old field already. I have been wondering, since I have heard the presentation of Professor Picalski, that probably an entire day wouldn't have been enough for the two of us coming from the academics to talk about media education. And also, I have been wondering again about that our scientific record actually grew up with media education field, because we have started looking to this domain, to this field, before the internet era, and we are still wondering and we are still discussing and debating about the wonders of this domain and of this field. So probably we'll go retiring and still not finding all the aspects and not coming into the same conclusions as we are. Why? Because it's a field that is correlated with the technology, and as we can see today, the technology is actually changing so fast that it's barely difficult for us to keep up, even on the epistemical level, to the new challenges and to the new effects that media and the entire universe of media is having upon us. This short introduction, is about some of my interest, academic interests, scientific interests on the field of media education, but also I am a practitioner. And my presentation for today, it's about those consequences and those answers that I have been trying to find out why in some countries the level is so low about the media education, and why and how other countries within the European Union space are in a very high position. Despite this, let's say, frame of my presentation of today, as I told you, I'm a practitioner, and the first media education programs that were implemented for teachers in the undergraduate level were elaborated by, let's say, a small group of professionists coming from the non-governmental sector and from NGOs, and unfortunately for Romania, they are still the same and they are still there. And this is how I have come to cooperate with Save the Children Romania, because we have been trying to address the large target of teachers of undergraduate level from Romania, and I will also present my approach to this type of, let's say, a pragmatic, practical approach about how media education can be effective and can be efficient. So this is my cooperation about my dearest friends from Save the Children Romania, and the entire work that they are doing there, and the impact that these kind of programs are useful. And also, I'm sorry, and I will, even if I'm trying to be optimistic, my presentation for today is not so, let's say, fascinating, and it's a little bit pessimistic or drastic. Again, Professor Piecak, we have the same problem. We have to deal with technology. Okay. So, few points about my presentation for today. The entire philosophy and the entire approach for media education standpoints, key points, were targeting the kids. And we have always, and I'm focusing on Romania apart because this is what I know best, of what are the effects on kids. What is the efficient method of being, let's say, preventive and challenging and answering to the challenges of risks, of failures, of different type of effects on kids, but we were the adults. We were the one that we didn't actually know how it works. We were, and some of us still are, the one that had that attitude of helicopter mother, that wants to survey, to control, and not trying actually to immerse into the kids' life and into the kids' needs and into the kids' challenges. So the last few years, and Professor Piațeschi probably he will agree with me, we have concentrated on disinformation, starting from pandemia and COVID-19 stress and infodemic and all those concepts that were constantly coming into our points of view. Now, with the war in Ukraine and everything what is happening around the war, including Israel and Hamas terrorist attack in Israel, again, disinformation and fake news is new and is on the agenda. And we have concentrated to tackle, like a recipe, some points about how to counteract against disinformation, how to make the kids aware about fake news, deep fake, malinformation, misinformation, and all this type of agenda and of course of behavior. But we are less concentrated on the type of mediation, and we have been less attentive, we less pay attention to the type of adult and parental mediation. The discussions that have been taking place or not inside the families, inside the groups. And as my colleague from Adam Mickiewicz University previously tackled this issue, I would like also to underline this fact that even if they have a high technological competencies and the technical competencies is very high, we don't use these type of competencies in our relation with the kids. We just ask them, please show me, how can I do this on Instagram? How did you do that? And they are bothered, but we don't submerge and we don't dive into exactly what type of behavior, how do they address the process and the content. Don't stay on the phone, it's too much. It will make some, I don't know, mental problem or medical problem, eye problems to your activity. You should stick to lessons. But actually the parents and the adults, they do not understand that they are doing more. And we are also doing more than having fun on the internet or using smartphones. Then another issue is that of digital divide. Digital divide in terms of less fortunate people and less fortunate kids that do not have access to the last model of iPhone 15 or to the last tablet or to the last Apple, I don't know, tablets or notebook, is different from those that are more fortunate. And their parents and their schools and have the technology and the right applications and the right softwares that they can be creative and they can encourage them to be proactive and to be, let's say, digital citizens, prosumers. Thus, this digital divide, which I'm sure it's also met here in Poland, in Romania, for example, is very high. It's a divide between those that are rich or medium class and the other one that are poor. It's a divide between the rural area, which even if they have internet access, they don't have the technology, and the professors and the teachers from that area don't have the minimum skills to approach the curriculum and the content in the new levels, and the one from the big cities or from the small cities where we have almost everything, but not even there. And the last point here is about intergenerational cleavage. I mean here about the senior, the adult, and the youngsters, and the children. Because in my opinion, and I stress out that in several articles, if we don't understand their lives, and if we don't understand not the so-called snowflakes generation, the Gen Z generation, we will lose them. We will be like the citizens of Hamelin in Grimm's story. We will wake up and our city will be empty because we didn't pay sufficient attention to this new age pan flute youngster that will attract our kids and they will disappear from our lives. Again, to legitimate my point of view here, I will address some data and statistic about what is and how is media literacy in Romania right now, and of course, media education and media literacy training programs. From a special point of view, there is only the ones that were accredited by the National Ministry of Education in Romania from the period 2017, when the first media education program was formally recognized by the Ministry of Education and was implemented in Romania. Bear in mind, we have started discussion about media education since 2005, 2010. And the first recognized media education program that addressed teachers' training was in 2017. And some discussions and implications in my point of view, and probably addressing your question. Okay, some of you are also familiar with the European Media Literacy Index from the last year, 2023. I will not stress very much because I know our colleague will explain you the index and how it is constructed. But what I would like to underline here is the fact that Romania, for example, is in cluster 4. And Poland, if I remember well, is in cluster 2. I will not address the fact that there are some countries like Finland, for example, and Denmark in cluster 1 with 74 or 73 points regarding how this index and how this media literacy index is made. Why? Why those countries, especially from, let's say, southeast part of Europe, are in the 4th cluster? And why Romania, for example, even if there were some shy tentatives to embrace and to address media education programs, actually decreased in the last few years. We were 3 years ago in the 3rd cluster, now we are on the 4th cluster. And it's another point that my colleague addressed. We have been wondering why, even as I told you so shyly, we cannot see the effects. And how can we measure actually these effects? Is media education a solution? Can we still perceive it as a silver bullet, a magic bullet, that will address all our fears, all our challenges, all our needs? Or we should have been looking, or we should look at it in a different manner, in a different way. And this is why I have started to look what are youngsters, what are kids, and what is people doing with media education. And one of the points that we have been looking at in the last years is about news, of course, disinformation, as I have told you before, as I have mentioned before. And what are people doing with media? As you can see in the 1st cluster, yes, the young generation is not actually so much interested in news as the seniors are, yes, in 55 years old and 64 years old. It's a sort of decreasing or increasing, depends on the way you look at the chart, on interest in news. The next slide, is social media a source of news? Yes, for younger generation there is, because they are on the online environment. They are deeply submerged in the virtual online environment. And mostly all their sources of information are coming from social media and from the internet. Except, and now you can see also a decreasing, except for the adults and the seniors, that their main interest is on television and on traditional type of media. So the cleavage is one point that you can observe here. The ones and the sources of information are different. I don't know if you are having kids, or if you are asking your kids in your classrooms if they are watching TV. Probably only the streaming channels, you know, on Netflix and so on. They will not open or open the TV set for news or for watching a film or a video. They will already have their small devices and laptops. Why and how, which are the main sources of using the internet? The same, and one of the clues is that everybody has the same interest in finding the information. So the main reason why people are in the virtual line is for finding information. Then you can see the differences thing. Contact with friends and families, so these are the youngsters that are doing, watching videos and shows, listen to music. And if you go to the older generations, the gaps you can see, because they will follow the news and events instead of listening to the music. Why? Because they are listening to the radio. They are on the traditional media, they are not on social media. Research brands, find new ideas and so on. and of course follow news and events is one of the latest points of interest for the youngsters. Why is this important? Because if you don't understand, as I told you, what and how their behaviors is online, we cannot address the right content and the right didactic strategies and the right programs, so we can go to our kids. The short presentation of what has been happening in Romania regarding media education training programs is, if you want, something that the European Union is looking for when they are doing and elaborating their strategies and their policies: grassroots information. So we have been started, and still we are doing, grassroots type of media education program, because there was no policy, there was no law, there was no, let's say, regulation started from the ministry, Romanian Ministry of Education, to address the challenges and the provocative elements of training and having trained new generations of youngsters over the time. The only one that have been recognized and accredited by the Ministry of Education were those programs, 5 provided by NGOs. You are seeing there, the Center for Independent Journalism, Save the Children Romania, Creative Research, Pro-Eurocons, and Eurocommunication Association. All of them are NGOs, and all of them have been trying to address this challenge with their own means and with their own financing. It is only one recognized program that teachers can apply, and of course getting, you know, ECTS, probably you know, professional credits for having trained and having been trained during a period of time. Only one is in a small county in Romania, in a partnership between Active Watch and Didactic Personnel House of Training. This is a small county near where our colleagues are coming from, Tulcea, that is in the east part of Romania, in Brăila. We don't know exactly how and how many teachers were actually trained. We have an approximation. Imagine that the entire teachers and undergraduate level in Romania is around 500,000. We estimated that during this time we have only few thousand that were trained and that were familiarized with the content and didactic strategies of having media education within their specialities. And of course, there were some EU financed programs on different calls of application in different projects. Some of them where we have the academia, some of them were from other NGOs, and some including European networks that address media literacy and media education. But as I say, they are very good, they are wonderful, as long as the financing is. Otherwise, they will stop and everything will be nice and clear. We'll have the results, we have the deliverables made for the EU, but everything stops from there. So we don't have a post-tracking, provocative and counseling or mentorship about what has been happening afterwards with our target groups and what are their needs further on. For those 6 training programs for teachers, I have been analyzing them and I have been trying to see from the perspective of the paradigm of media education how were they elaborated, how they were constructed, and which are the key elements that the content creator have been looking at. And for that, I needed a framework, and the basic framework that is still available, and it's still, even if it is debatable for us, for the scientists, but for the pragmatic and applied fact of media education is still working because it is very simple. Is the one made of European Audiovisual Advisory Board in 2010-2011, and of course by Sonia Livingstone, David Buckingham, René Hobbs, input in media education field. Very simple: access, analyze, evaluate, and create, which tackles all the competencies, even if we are looking at DigiComp, even if you are looking to the basic media literacy competencies and thskills. So I have been operationalized the main curriculum and the main competencies these programs have been looking at in the terms of use, of critical understanding, of communicating, and of course, the elements that are subsequent to those main pillars. And the 6 programs that we have been looking at and trying to see what has been doing and why the media competencies in Romania is so low, is the fact that most of them are focusing on the use part and on the media content. And these aspects, these dimensions, are tackled through various specialties. I mean, even if you are a professor of languages, or even if you are a professor of biology, or of mathematics, or of social sciences, the main concern is regarding the use and the media content. Of course, I agree, and I have been saying that for a lot of time now, even in my PhD studies, where when I elaborated the first media competencies scale of measuring teachers' training, communication skills regarding that, is the fact that we can teach media education and we can address media education no matter the level of study that we are teaching at, from kindergarten till university, high school, and adult education, and no matter what speciality we are. Because as my colleague mentioned before, you can address pseudoscientific content or false history, or I don't know, astronomy or physics, even from geography or biology science till literature and languages. In languages and literature, you address media education by addressing how the journalistics are creating and elaborating the message. In biology or technical education, you can address by fighting pseudoscientific aspects. Let's be clear, the Earth is not flat. Yes, this is one of the most stupid things that we have been encountered. That means that those kind of dilemmas that someone has now, they didn't get the scientific type of education. Let's argue between us here in Eastern Europe. If you want to have a chat or a small experiment, if you want, take a Hungarian, take a Romanian, take a Polish, take a Serbian, and ask who are the first here in Europe, and you'll get a fight. Everyone was here in Europe the first, especially in the eastern part. Ask who is the most clear or has the most red blood, genetically speaking, here in Eastern Europe or all over the Europe. And again, different nationalities will come and say, we are the most European, we are the most clearly and red-blooded persons here. They didn't get the genetics. They didn't understand actually how their ancestors came here, and there is a lack of education in other parts of other disciplines. So this is our task, and this is field of media education and proper media education. Here is a few insights about how those training programs were elaborated. Once again, the people that made those training programs were not experts in media education. They were NGOs volunteers, they were NGOs experts, they were part of different trainings made in different projects at EU level, or as I told you, in EU networks. Some of them were also academics, and they stressed some points regarding their own expertise and their own field. And you can see this variety from media pedagogy to media instrument and practices and the role of a spokesman. This is a module that is taught as media education, the role of the spokesman and PR. And they have only 2 modules, for example, this program. So the variety is very large. We don't have a certain frame to address, and I'm avoiding to say a certain control. I'm avoiding saying control from the academia or from the experts in media education, which is for surely needed in a national level. So those programs have their own curricula, they elaborate their own didactic materials and their own textbooks. So we cannot say, even if we look, as I looked into what they actually teach about media education and media competencies and literacy skills. So they all developed independently. They didn't cooperate with each other, or they didn't consult each other, so everybody became an expert in media education. What is also, as I told you before, let's say type of frame is about the stressing the preventive model and still ICT type of skills, but not digital skills, which I would have wished for to be tackled in the media education. We are still learning how to open a PPT presentation, or how we can, they don't do even Canva, or how can we make a Kahoot presentation or Kahoot game, but they don't actually learn about open educational resources and other applications and other programs and other softwares that can be much more easily and friendly used by the kids and within their learning process and learning activities. Of course, there is a problem regarding the human resources and actually the trainers. Only few of those NGOs, like Save the Children, have the possibility of training their own trainers. So we can have a common view about how can we address some aspects or which one are most to be addressed in our teacher training program. So they only look at the CVs of the trainers, and if they have graduated communication science program, bachelor program is wonderful, but most of them did not have even the bare knowledge about communication sciences, for example. Of course, some of them, about functionality and sustainability of this program, have to put some taxes, some fees for attending the trainings, and as I told you, some of them, because of their lack of human resources and also technological and administrative resources, they address a few or certain categories of teaching staff, like languages or social sciences. And as I stressed you before, I explained you before, it's not only there the media education need. So I'm getting to discussions and implication, the first part. Of course, there is a huge need, and I'm not afraid of using this word, that strategic planning for media education is mandatory in teachers training program in Romania, and here is something that I'm always discussing about, not only targeting the young generation, the kids. We need to address them through their teachers, because teachers also need media education as adults. Children and kids, and together with teachers, can become promoters of media education in their families, in their groups. They can be, if you want, the second or maybe the most central node of communication in their groups, in their peers, and they can be promoters of media education probably better than professors, than the teachers in some situations, and of course in their relations with other actors. And I mean here, even in their gatherings, institutional gatherings, formal gatherings or non-formal gatherings. In Erasmus, for example, programs in mobility, in institutions like churches, sports, or other things that they are having in their spare time. So those actors, those stakeholders also need to be taken into the consideration. There were, because I couldn't be so upset about the national perspective and the national strategy in Romania. There was a small input a few years ago about making policy and a law initiative. Unfortunately, for us, for those that are promoting media education in Romania, was such a bad law and such a bad initiative that we have to do all our best and protest that law not to be approved by the Romanian parliament, because again, it was not properly made and it would have done much worse than gains for the teachers and for the Romanians. And the last thing that I am stressing is about, and this is what I have been doing for the past 4 years, a peer-to-peer model of education. Children are learning much well on this type of things that are very appropriate to them by their peers, by their colleagues. So for the last 4 years, I've been implementing peers-to-peers, equal-to-equal model of education on the model of trainers of trainees. And instead of me being old and probably boring them on this kind of issue, is not such effective. But if a colleague of them, even if it is with 2 or 3 years older than them, coming and explaining and coming and being trained about these strategic educational tactics and of course all the methodological aspect, the results were successful. So they were much opened and they could have discussed it very freely, and the content actually had an impact on them, and it was sociological measured. And the last point is that, yes, there are some superficial understanding of disinformation. I'm coming back to the main points that I have addressed at the beginning. Disinformation fatigue is actually functioning, and we can see it in the fact that, for example, in Romanian national polls, there is an acknowledgement, an awareness about the spreading of disinformation, but the fact-checking skills and the fact-checking process is less known. The fact that also, and this is very important for these electoral years, the fact that even if we know that everybody is addressing and exposed to disinformation, the fact that we don't trust media generally, and media news and media outlets together with media institutions is a problem, because media should have remain the watchdog of democracy, and it is the fourth power in every state. And if we are not trusting what media is doing, we are having a problem regarding imposing censorship, imposing lack of expression, and imposing in a national level other types of constraints regarding the media voice. And this is my final slide. Of course, we are like juries here, but Tom can be tackled. Thank you very much, dziękuję. And if you have any questions, I will be here all day with you. Thank you.